What happens when the man who owns 11 golf courses disguises himself to mow the fairway and ends up watching a worker limp off bleeding while the groundskeeper shrugs it off? Ronan Olsen pulled into the gravel lot of the Maple Ridge Golf Club just after 5 a.m. It was still dark, a thin layer of mist crawling across the greens. He killed the engine and stared at the clubhouse lights in the distance. This was the fourth course he'd visited in 2 months. After inheriting the chain of 11 golf clubs from his father 3 years ago, Ronan had focused on bigger picture stuff: construction deals, vendor partnerships, branding. But lately, he'd been hearing things from corporate. High turnover, safety complaints, and unusually low morale at a few of the courses. Maple Ridge had been flagged twice. Nothing serious on paper, but enough to bother him. He never met the staff personally. Each location had its own manager and crew. He'd only seen the names on HR spreadsheets. Now he was going in as Rob, a new groundskeeping trainee doing a 2-week trial. The disguise was solid. He'd shaved down to stubble, wore cheap work boots, and had grease streaked on his cap. Nobody had ever seen him in person at this location. It was a corporate chain, and his face wasn't on the website. That's how he wanted it. He grabbed his thermos and headed toward the maintenance shed. "Hey, you the new guy," a tall man in a faded hoodie and cargo pants called out. His voice was sharp, not welcoming. "Yeah, Rob," Ronan said, offering a hand. The man glanced at it but didn't shake. "Chet, I'm the groundskeeper. You're with me this week." A younger guy walked past them, limping slightly as he carried a box of flags. "Where's your brace, Illy?" Chet barked. "I took it off. It's fine," the guy mumbled. "Don't care. If you slow me down today, I'm sending you home without pay." Ronan frowned but stayed quiet. They spent the first hour riding mowers and trimming edges. Chet said little except to bark instructions. He moved fast, worked harder than Ronan expected, but his tone with the others was clipped, like he was always daring someone to talk back. At 7, they stopped near hole 6 to replace a broken sprinkler head. Illy and another worker, Jamie, joined them. As Ronan bent to grab a wrench, he heard a sharp yelp. "Ah, damn my hand," he turned. Illy had dropped to his knees, clutching his palm. A piece of metal from the old sprinkler had sliced him deep. "Hold still," Jamie said, grabbing a rag from her pocket, wrapping it around Illy's hand. Chet stood a few feet away, arms crossed. "Should have worn gloves. You want to take a break now, or can we get this fixed?" Illy's face went pale. "It's bad, man. I think I need stitches." Jamie looked up. "He needs to go to urgent care." Ronan stepped forward. "I'll drive him." Chet snorted. "You're not paid to drive, and if he's leaving, he clocks out now." Jamie froze. "You serious?" "Company policy," Chet said flatly. "No light duty, no ride-alongs. You get hurt, you clock out." Ronan looked down at Illy, who was trying hard not to cry. The blood was soaking through the rag. "Come on, get up," Ronan said gently, helping him up. "I'm taking him, I'll be back." Chet didn't stop them. He just shook his head and turned his back. They reached Ronan's truck. As they drove, Illy kept his head down. "I'm sorry. I should have been more careful," he said. "You're not the one who should be apologizing," Ronan muttered. At the urgent care, the nurse confirmed what Ronan suspected. Illy needed 3 stitches. He'd be fine, but he'd have to take a couple days off. On the way back, Illy asked, "You think they'll fire me?" "No," Ronan said. "I won't let that happen." Back at the course, Jamie met them by the shed. She helped Illy inside and gave Ronan a nod. "Thanks for stepping in," she said under her breath. "Chet's been like that all year. Nobody says anything. People are scared to lose their jobs. Has anyone reported him? To who? The manager's his buddy. They golf together, and district barely shows up." Ronan clenched his jaw. That night, he sent a message to corporate HR under a fake name, requesting internal safety audit. Possible policy violations at Maple Ridge. He wasn't done yet. Tomorrow, he'd be back on the mower, and he was going to keep his eyes wide open. Ronan returned the next morning before sunrise. Rain had rolled through overnight, and the course was damp, the scent of wet grass settling low over the fairways. He parked in the same gravel lot and walked toward the shed, the sting of yesterday's events still fresh. Illy hadn't been on the time sheet today, not surprising. But Chet was, and that alone made Ronan's jaw tighten. Inside the shed, the atmosphere was subdued. Jamie was sorting through flags with a tired expression. A stocky man in his 50s coughed twice before nodding toward Ronan. "Rob, right?" he said, voice gravelly. "Yeah, I'm Mike. Been here since 04. You're with me today. Chet's got irrigation checks." Ronan caught a flash of movement across the room, Chet loading a crate of nozzles into a cart. He didn't say a word. Mike led Ronan out to the east side of the course where the rain had flooded part of Hole 8's rough. They worked in silence for a while, clearing silt from a clogged drain near the cart path. "You know Ellie well?" Ronan asked, not looking up. Mike paused, then leaned on his rake. "Decent kid, works hard, too hard. He's been favoring that leg since June. Sprained it on a slope. Chet told him to walk it off." Ronan steadied his breath. "You ever report it?" Mike scratched behind his ear. "To who?" "The clubhouse manager's been stretched thin since they cut her assistant. She's juggling events, bookings, payroll, and Chet. Well, he's loud. Makes it seem like he's got things handled." They moved to Hole 9, where some of the turf had yellowed from a broken irrigation valve. As they dug around the pipe, another worker, a lanky guy with a bandana under his cap, flagged them down. "Mike, we got a delivery issue." "The mulch is wrong again," he called out. Mike groaned. "Third time this month, they keep sending pine instead of cedar." "Who orders it?" Ronan asked. "Chet. He insists it's cheaper, but it's not what we spect." Mike stood, brushing soil off his knees. "And it leaches tannins into the fringe grass. Looks like garbage." As Mike walked off to handle the delivery, Ronan jogged over to Hole 10 where Jamie was working alone, raking out a sand trap. Her movements were steady but sluggish. "You always solo out here?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Only when we're short-staffed, which is most days." "Why not hire more?" She finally glanced at him, eyes rimmed with fatigue. "Ask Chet. He says we don't need more. Says people just aren't efficient enough." Ronan crouched beside her, grabbing a rake. "How long have you worked here?" 2 years. "You like it?" She hesitated. "I used to. I liked the early mornings, the quiet, but lately." She raked a little harder. "It's like you're invisible unless you mess up, and even then, it's just yelling." They finished the trap in silence. As they packed up, Jamie's radio crackled. "Clubhouse needs you," came a strained voice. She sighed and turned to Ronan. "You want to see the real chaos? Come with me." Inside the clubhouse, the front desk was overwhelmed. A wedding party was gathered near the banquet hall, their planner gesturing wildly at a box of centerpieces that had been delivered in the wrong colors. A single staffer behind the bar poured coffee for a line of 8 golfers. "Where's Dana?" Jamie asked. "She's downstairs trying to reprint invoices." "Printer crashed again," the bartender said without looking up. Jamie whispered, "And Chet wants to act like the course is running smooth." Ronan spotted the clubhouse manager, Dana, coming up the stairs. Her shirt was untucked, her eyes ringed with dark circles. She carried a clipboard with a broken spring. "Hey, Dana," Jamie said gently. "You okay?" Dana nodded automatically, then blinked at Ronan. "You the new guy?" "Yeah, Rob." "Welcome to the circus," she said with a tired smile. "I'll be honest, I've had 2 assistants quit in the last month. One walked out mid-shift. The other said she couldn't take being yelled at by Chet one more time." Jamie excused herself to help the bartender. Ronan leaned in slightly. "Why does Chet have that kind of pull?" Dana looked around, then lowered her voice. "He's been here 10 years, knows every pipe, every valve, every shortcut. He makes himself indispensable, and he's loud enough to intimidate people. I've filed complaints. Nothing sticks. From who? District Ops, but they never follow up. They just ask if anything's broken." Ronan leaned back, watching a server rush past with a half-filled tray. "Who decides staffing levels? Used to be me with HR. Now it's Chet and the regional director. They say labor costs are too high. I say we're bleeding out our best people." Ronan's jaw tensed. He thanked her and stepped outside. Later that afternoon, while loading debris into the compost trailer, Ronan saw a young woman crouched behind the pump house, rubbing her temples. He approached quietly. "You all right?" She looked up, startled. "Sorry, just needed 5 minutes. You knew, 3 weeks. She stood slowly. "I'm Tasha. I was hired to help with landscaping upgrades. But I've been raking, hauling trash, even power washed the carts last night." "Isn't that a separate crew?" She laughed bitterly. "There is no crew, just whoever Chet pulls for the day. I asked about training and he said figure it out or go back to Starbucks." Ronan's chest burned. "You report that?" She looked at him like he'd suggested jumping off the roof. To who? He's the one who signs off on our hours. That night, Ronan sat in his truck behind the shed long after everyone had left. He typed into his tablet, pulling up the regional director's internal file. The man had signed off on 3 budget cuts in 6 months, each time citing excess labor overhead. He drafted a formal override order, authorizing immediate staffing adjustments and a third-party HR investigation into Maple Ridge's site operations. But Chet needed to be dealt with directly. Ronan walked back into the darkened clubhouse, found Dana in the break room sipping cold coffee, and handed her a sealed envelope. "This goes to HR, top priority. I'll deal with Chet personally tomorrow." Dana looked at him, puzzled. "Who are you, really?" He met her eyes. "You'll find out soon enough." Rain hit the metal roof of the maintenance shed in slow, steady taps the next morning. The forecast said it would clear by noon, but the early hours were soaked and gray. Ronan arrived as the first cart headlights rolled through the fog. He kept his hood up and his pace steady. No one said much at first. Chet was already inside, standing over a clipboard and muttering to himself. He looked up just long enough to jab a thumb toward the backlot. "Rob, grab a rake and help clear the runoff behind 13. It's flooding the path again." Ronan nodded and headed out, passing Jamie on her way in. Her eyes met his for a split second. Something unspoken passed between them, but she didn't pause. Behind the 13th green, the rain had pooled along the slope, water running in thin streams over the path. Ronan worked quietly, digging shallow channels, redirecting the flow toward a drain. It was mindless labor, but it gave him time to think. By mid-morning, the clouds began to break. Mike pulled up in a utility cart and waved Ronan over. "Dana wants to see you at the clubhouse." Now, Ronan wiped his hands and climbed into the passenger side. "You know what it's about?" he asked. Mike didn't answer right away. "He's pushing people harder today, like he knows something's coming." Ronan looked ahead. "He's right." Inside the clubhouse, Dana stood near the bar, her arms folded across her chest. She didn't look tired anymore. She looked ready. "He's in the pro shop," she said. Ronan walked past the reception desk, through the hallway lined with old tournament photos, and pushed open the door to the shop. Chet was there, leaning over a shipment of gloves, talking loudly to the assistant pro. "I don't care what the invoice says," he barked. "You don't sign for anything until I say so." Ronan stepped in. Chet turned, surprised. "What?" Ronan closed the door behind him. "We're done, step outside." Chet's face twisted. "Excuse me." Ronan took off his cap, pulled back his hood. "I'm not Rob, I'm Ronan Olsen. I own this course. And you and I are going to have a very honest conversation. Right now." Chet's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, he looked unsure. Outside, Dana stood with Mike and Jamie near the back steps. A few workers had paused what they were doing, watching from a distance, unsure what was happening. Ronan motioned to the small patio by the loading dock. "Over there." Chet followed, his shoulders tense. "You've created a culture of fear, exploitation, and burnout," Ronan said, voice low but firm. "You've ignored safety, pushed injured staff to work, and overridden department heads on budget and staffing decisions without authority." Chet scoffed. "I've kept this place running with half the staff we used to have. You think the others could have done that?" Ronan didn't blink. "You didn't keep it running. You broke it and stepped over the pieces. People are exhausted, injured, some have left. Others are scared of losing their jobs if they speak up. You manipulated that fear." Chet crossed his arms. "You think you can replace me? No one else knows this course like I do." "You're right. No one else knows how to cut corners and bury problems like you do," Ronan said. "And I don't want that kind of knowledge in this company. You're terminated, effective immediately. You'll be escorted off the property and your access revoked." Chet's jaw locked. "You're making a mistake." "No, I'm correcting one." Ronan turned and walked back toward the clubhouse. Dana had already called security. Jamie stood off to the side, arms crossed, expression unreadable. As Chet was led to the parking lot, Ronan stepped into the staff break room. A few workers looked up, startled to see him not as Rob, but as the person who signed their checks. "I didn't come here to play undercover for fun," Ronan said. "I came because I heard things weren't right, and I needed to see it for myself." No one spoke, but their eyes stayed on him. "Chet's gone. effective now, and I'm not putting another middle manager in to cover up problems. Dana will have full staffing authority restored, and we've authorized new hires starting this week. Anyone who wants to apply for leadership roles, you'll have a fair shot. Mike leaned in the doorway. What about Ali? He's covered, Ronan said. He's getting paid for the time he's off. When he's ready, his position's still here. Jamie stepped forward. What if people are still scared about speaking up? They won't be. Not anymore. And if anyone retaliates for anything that's been said or will be said, they'll be gone too. No warnings. A quiet hum of conversation rose in the room. Relief, maybe disbelief. Later that afternoon, Ronan sat with Dana in her office. A new assistant had arrived that morning, someone she'd fought to hire months ago but had been blocked. Now she was in orientation. You sure you want to stick around for the staff meeting tomorrow? Dana asked. I'm staying through the weekend. I want to talk to every department, landscaping, kitchen, pro shop, hospitality. She nodded. You're going to hear a lot. I should have listened sooner. You're listening now. Outside, the sound of carts moving across the gravel returned to normal. Jamie was walking the edge of the fairway with Tasha, showing her how to spot the runoff lines. Mike was fixing the drainage valve behind the 9th hole with a replacement part that had been sitting in storage, never installed. Ronan stepped out and watched it come back together slowly, not perfectly, but honestly. He picked up a rake and walked back toward the shed. There was still work to finish. By Thursday morning, the sky had settled into a pale stretch of blue, streaked with thin clouds that promised a calm day. Ronan sat on the edge of the staff trailer, his sleeves rolled to his elbows, grease still on his forearms from helping Mike service the green's mower before sunrise. Word had spread. Not just that Rob was really Ronan Olsen, but that things were going to change and fast. No fanfare. No fake promises, just action. And people were watching to see if it would stick. Jamie walked up, holding a clipboard and a stack of laminated schedules. I've got revised crew assignments through next week, she said. Dana asked if I'd oversee the landscaping rota. Just temporarily. You comfortable doing that? I am, she said. I've been redesigning the bunker maintenance checklist. The old one had us raking in patterns that actually caused water pooling. Ronan nodded. Let's implement your system. If it works, we standardize it across the other clubs. She blinked. Across all of them, you know the turf better than most. I want our best ideas coming from the ground up, not just from architects in offices. As Jamie headed off, Ronan glanced toward the clubhouse. A dozen folding chairs had been set up on the lawn for the midday staff session. Nothing mandatory, just an open forum. He'd made that clear. By noon, nearly every employee showed up anyway. They sat in quiet clusters, grounds crew in faded uniforms, event staff in polos, 2 kitchen workers still in aprons. Dana stood nearby, hands clasped loosely in front of her, eyes scanning the group. Ronan stepped forward, no microphone, just his voice. I owe you all something I never should have let slip, presence. I let spreadsheets and reports replace people, and that ends today. He looked across faces, some tired, some skeptical, others openly curious. Decisions that affect you won't be made without you anymore. Starting next week, we're forming site councils. Every department gets a representative. You'll meet monthly with Dana and send 1 delegate to a quarterly call with me directly. One of the kitchen staff, a short man with an unmistakable Boston accent, raised a hand. What if we don't got time to sit in meetings? You'll be paid for it, Ronan said. And if your manager ever discourages participation, I want to know immediately. A younger worker from the cart barn leaned forward. Is this just here, or are the other clubs getting this too? Every one of them, Ronan said. The same structure, no exceptions. He paused. Maple Ridge exposed a lot, not just what went wrong here, but what I let slip across the board. I'm not just fixing this site. I'm building a model we can trust, 1 course at a time. There were no cheers, just silence. But not the cold kind. Dana stepped up next. This is your place to speak. If you've got ideas, frustrations, or solutions, now's the time. A few murmurs passed through the crowd. Then Tasha from landscaping stood. I've been sketching a redesign for the flower beds by the main path, she said. The current ones are all pine mulch and they drain poorly. I think it could look better and save labor long term. Dana nodded. Submit it. We'll review it together. A server from events raised her hand next. Can we get cross-training? Half of us want more hours, but no one tells us when the other departments need help. Absolutely, Ronan said. We're launching a shared scheduling board. You'll be able to opt into shifts across departments starting next month. More hands followed. Questions about uniforms, overtime thresholds, staff meals. Everyone got a direct answer. After the meeting, Ronan walked the course with Mike. The older man moved slower today, his knee clearly bothering him after the wet week. I've been meaning to ask, Ronan said. Why'd you stay so long, through all of it? Mike looked out across the 10th fairway, where Jamie and the new assistant were adjusting the bunker lines. This place used to be something, he said. Back when it wasn't just bottom lines and rushing crews, I figured if I stuck around, maybe it could be that again. Ronan didn't say anything for a while, just let the wind move through the trees. I'm sorry it took this long, he said finally. Mike gave a small nod. You're here now. Later that evening, Ronan met with Dana in her office. The new assistant was finalizing inventory logs at a nearby desk. Everything was quieter now, not because there was less to do, but because people were doing it without walking on eggshells. Staffing report, Ronan asked. We've filled 3 of the 5 open positions. The other 2 are in process. I've already had more applicants in the last 48 hours than we had in the past 3 months combined. Retention. I've spoken to every department lead. No one's planning to leave, not yet anyway. He handed her a folded envelope. What's this? Authorization to bring in third-party HR consultants for you and the reps to work with directly. She opened it, skimmed the contents, then looked up. You're serious about all of this? I have to be. I let the company reflect the worst version of me for too long, detached, impatient, obsessed with efficiency over people. Dana leaned back in her chair. I think they're starting to believe you. I'm not asking for belief, he said. I'm asking for time and accountability. The next morning, Ronan helped unload a shipment of new safety gear, proper gloves, impact vests, and first aid kits for every work zone. Tasha handed out the inventory checklist like she'd been doing it for years. Ronan stayed through Sunday, showing up before first light and leaving after the last cart was docked. He never gave a speech again. Just worked patching worn turf, hauling soil, helping the kitchen prep for a tournament brunch. By the time he left, the course hadn't transformed into paradise. But it was functional, and more importantly, it was honest. On his way out of the parking lot, he passed Ellie just arriving, hands still bandaged but walking steady. They exchanged a glance. Ellie gave a quiet nod. Ronan returned it without a word and kept driving. He wouldn't disappear again. Not from Maple Ridge. Not from any of them. And from now on, no spreadsheet would ever tell him more than a day on the ground could.